So what we're going to do is, this is core sprint 4. It'll span 3 weeks. We'll go into Jira real soon and start looking through stories. So what I wanted to do is get an assessment of where we're at in terms of the sprint mapping for the platform. So Andy?
Right, so can you hear me?
Yes.
So a couple of things have slipped back in the sprint planning. So for example, the categorize and unify synchronizers up at the top has slipped from sprint 3, and as well as the for me, the uniform development environment task and the update fabric configuration task. So these were scheduled in sprint 3. They didn't happen then, so we slipped them back to sprints 4 and 5. And what we did in order to make room for these is scaled back the synchronizer work that had been planned for this release. So we had originally hoped to do some pretty significant refactoring of the synchronizer framework in order to make it a lot easier to write new synchronizers. And there's not going to be time to do all of that work. But what we plan to do is, and I guess maybe Sapin can say more about this, but I'll just summarize, is to try to figure out if it's the case that 20% of that refactor can actually get us the majority of the benefits, which seems like it's probably the case. Do that refactoring work and improve the documentation. And so hopefully that will be sufficient for the majority of people who are developing synchronizers to have an easier time of building new ones. Other things that have slipped, I guess, for Scott, the CDN tasks slipped from sprint 3 into sprint 4. For Zach, the uniform development environment slipped or extended now into sprint 4. And the Sonar Cube that's now in sprint 5 also slipped back.
Is it in terms of the fabric migration to ONOS 1.10? Did that happen?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Is that a question for me or for Andy?
For fabric.
So I think we haven't done documentation yet, so it has been pushed back because we have this like competitive. I've been working with Andy about updating the configuration on the fabric side, sorry, on the XOS side, but those stuff still need to be documented.
Okay.
So that hasn't been done yet.
Okay, because there's the fabric side as well as the config on the XOS side. Right?
There's nothing to do with the fabric side. It's just documentation.
Okay, so that.
This is all XOS work here.
Right. So yeah, I think that we'll need to find some time to document this, but I've already kind of give Andy some direction about which configuration need to be changed and need to be changed into what new format. So it's just not written down. It's described, just in our conversation, but we need to put it in Wiki.
So we've updated the ONOS version to 1.10?
Yes.
Okay, because there's 1.8 before.
Yes.
Well, that's not checked in. Nobody has updated yet.
I thought that would be done after Andy finished the task in. He's trying to do it with CIV, right?
Right.
Okay. And then as part of the config changes.
I think so.
Right. So what Charles and I discussed was, so he told me more details about the how the configuration would need to change, and so I have a better idea of what's involved there. And when we discussed how we were going to develop and validate the changes, it seemed like the best way to do that was with code in a box with the virtual fabric turned on. So that was never fully working. There'll be a little bit of work to get that going, which I've included kind of in this overall Sprint 5 effort. And I guess there's also some updates to use Open vSwitch instead of CPQD as the virtual switch there. So once we've done that, then we can start validating the configuration changes.
Okay, and I think we're also flagging that there's a dependency to get a newer version of ONOS.
Right.
Okay, and Andy, you were going to do that also.
Yes. So are we thinking, so right now we're running 2 ONOS containers. One is with the fabric and the other was with VTN. Ideally, I guess we would be running the newest ONOS in both. But do we expect that VTN is working fine with the newest version of ONOS?
I don't know of anything that would prevent it from working.
I think the goal would be to use the same ONOS version.
Yeah, I think we should aim for that. Yeah.
Okay, but we'll have to actually try it out and make sure that it really does. There's no problems.
Yeah.
Okay, well, yeah, I'll take on that as part of this update fabric configuration. I'll also take on the updating of the ONOS apps in both places and testing them.
Okay, thanks, Andy. And so I think, in summary, what I've noted at a high level feature-wise is everything in the Ansible playbook is out. And then I think a couple of things we've noted are possibly at risk would be kind of the do exception and error handling right. Because I think Varun is still working on logging, right? Originally, I think we had assumed a couple of interns. And then refactor and re-implement synchronizers that maybe scale down.
So I just want to point out in the synchronizer work, we're pretty much only losing about a week, right? So it's true that the synchronizer task from last sprint slipped into this sprint, but some work actually got pulled back from this sprint into the previous sprint because it tied in with model policy. So that was the model policy, the new model policy framework work that has gotten done with, right? And so for synchronizers, we're just going to lose a week, and we might be able to make up some ground. I'm unsure how much we'll get done eventually, but we're not losing that much time.
Okay, so let's monitor and see where we're at with that feature. But I'm just kind of noting where we're at. And I think part of what I was trying to understand was where would we make some of the trade-offs, right? Because we're going to be working on event buses in Sprint 5. So a thought here is, right, exception and error handling. We consider a high priority should probably be handled first. So we can play around with some of it based on priority. And then we'll get started on the actual sprint planning. So that was just kind of a high-level picture of where we're at, so that we can set the stage for this. So in terms of sprint planning, we'll start at the top. So service and tendency model. Scott?
Just a minute. You were asking for me?
Yes, because we're on service and tendency model. That
right.
Represent some of this stuff also.
Yeah, so these 3 items, we planned on doing them last sprint. They're going to get done this sprint. And then Mateo's graph views will go with these modeling changes.
Yeah, I noticed this is an estimate 0, so I'll have to see what's going on there.
I couldn't quite hear that.
Something's the matter with the microphone.
Yeah, you guys are very quiet.
Okay, we're pretty much sitting on top of the microphone, so I'm not quite sure.
Now you're good.
Where's my laptop getting in the way? You guys can hear us better now?
Yeah, I can hear you a little better.
Okay.
We haven't changed anything though.
I leaned in more. Okay, so are you good, Scott? Do you want to move to the next one?
Yeah, I'm good on this screen.
The uniform development environment?
Can you click on that? So David said he wouldn't be able to make the call, but he was going to finish his work using Make to build and publish the mass containers. It sounds like he's just wrapping that up now. For my tasks, I guess there's, so Zach has brought the Make-based build to the point where you can build a, basically the mock profiles for development, but now we need to build the full pod and the cord in a box with Make, and so that was waiting for David's work in the previous task, and also the Onos app build that I checked in at the end of the last sprint. So now the dependencies for those are satisfied, and we can push to get forward on those. So that's cord 1400 and 1401. Cord 1563 is cleaning up the vagrant file that's used for the pod and cord in a box. So Zach has done that for the mock builds, and I took a look at what he did, and it's much easier to understand and easy to manage than the current giant vagrant file that we have for cord in a box. So I'm going to clean that up. Cord 1377 is presentation of the build environment changes to XOS service developers. I hope to get that done really shortly. That keeps slipping, but now it's probably fine that it's waited this long because we have something more concrete to present to them, but we're not so far along that feedback won't be useful. So I'm going to try to get that scheduled, hopefully in the next couple of days. Those are my tasks. Zach,
I have 1564 add multi-stage build support to the image builder. Andy is using this, the multi-stage build support in the Onos apps. And it looks like we'll be able to use that in other places in Mass and then in the GUI extensions. There are a few others that I don't think are on your screen yet, but we're in this sprint. One is 1566 config step to dynamically build a list of synchronizer images. Right now it's a static list. I'm going to make it so that the synchronizer images are pulled down depending on whether they're specified in the profile. 1569 is auto-generating documentation of build system variables, and that goes along with the documentation work. And then 1574 is revising the build documentation to align with the make-based build, because all of our older documentation makes assumptions about the older build system, and it needs to be revised so that it doesn't have things that are no longer appropriate. I think that's it for uniform development environments.
Okay, thanks, Zach. we don't have logging, but I know logging isn't done. So is Varun on? Okay, so we'll have to see where that's at. I don't think we're starting that. So happen.
So investigate and classify existing synchronizer patterns is going to be a collaborative ticket. I'm going to be analyzing various synchronizer implementations and characterize them into a handful of patterns and figure out the ones that are the most common and talk to people about how best we can summarize them and support those patterns. And so that's going to be 1 week. And the week beyond that, I'm going to come up with a design for design based on the findings of that exercise, and also maybe do some initial implementation groundwork for the sprint, the next sprint to follow, which will take the conclusions and the lessons learned through these exercises and actually refactor some of the implementation of synchronizers to make them more convenient to write and make the development of synchronizers more usable.
Okay, thanks, Happen. I don't see Tosca stories, but I think there was still work to migrate some of the Tosca recipes. And so we'll have to see if that's coming in once Matteo gets back from PTO.
Yeah, I was probably supposed to update Mateo's stuff for him, and apologies for that. I'm probably tardy on that. But he's expected to spend some time working on fixing up the XOS bootstrapping system so the new Tosca engine can be put into place, as well as migrating existing Tosca recipes over to the new engine.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and move this into the sprint then. Okay, new model policy framework.
All right, so in the sprint review last week, I'd mentioned that there were 3 tickets from this that were close to completion. 2 out of those 3 are now done and reviewed and tested and merged. The last one needs end-to-end testing, so I've allocated a 2-point, like a day of work for that. So normally, model policy, this new model policy framework should have been done with this last bit of effort in the previous sprint, but I guess there was this contingency, and we had a sync up meeting earlier today about this. So when I refactored these model policies, and especially security and privileges, the point was to make existing functionality more robust and programmable. So the assumption there was that things basically worked, and this assumption turned out to be wrong. So the security code was dated and buggy and actually mostly turned off. And so in our meeting, we decided that we were going to fix this, and it's going to take a week. And so the first week of my sprint will be taken up with this work. So there's implementing security enforcements at the API boundary. So fortunately now the main and actually the only way of accessing the data model is via the API. And so that's where we're going to actually implement security enforcements. Port current security policies from models to the API boundary. And then when new data model objects come up, we want to auto create the security credentials for people to be able to access those objects. And when we turn on security, when we turn on all of this stuff, and actually also the refactoring work that I've been doing, we activate all of that, chances are everything's going to break. And so it's going to need some debugging and end-to-end testing. So that's going to be my first week, and beyond that, I'll move on to the synchronizer work I mentioned previously.
Okay, thanks, Happen. Eliminate excess UI container. Scott, were you covering Matteo?
Sure. So let me look at these. So yeah, the first one is the bootstrapping issue that I mentioned before. That is because the new Tosca engine is unable to create the admin user because there is no admin credential to be able to use the API. So we have to have a new bootstrapping mechanism. Inlining navigation for related models. That would be some GUI enhancements to link related models together with the main model. So if you're editing tenants, you would see tenant attributes as well, that sort of thing. Suggestions for field that can be populated by a list of values. I'm assuming that has to do with choice type fields. And adding the ability in Xproto to hide fields and models from GUI display. That's because the existing GUI right now, it displays all of the fields in a model, and oftentimes all of them are not of interest to the person using the user interface. They get overwhelmed with fields that they don't actually have to fill in. So we're just going to hide a bunch of them by default. That should be it.
Maintenance, Andy?
So looks like all I have in maintenance is going to China, which I guess this popped up last week. They need help at China Mobile setting up their pod, and also there's a workshop that they're hosting over there that I was asked to participate in. So that is the third week of this sprint that I'll be over in China. I think I also added, I'm just trying to, no, never mind. I added the update ONOS to 1.10 to the maintenance task, but that's not scheduled for this sprint, so that's why it's not popping up.
Yeah, it'll be sprint 5.
Yeah.
Nothing from Luca. Nothing from eCard?
That's not really eCard, that's platform support for eCard. And no, that's not planned right now. It's blocked on Broadcom.
Okay. QA? You?
Okay, so 1513 is something we started last spring, and we continue in the spring. Hopefully, it's almost done, and hopefully we'll close it soon. And 1555 is to we'll add whatever we have for exercise GUI tasks to integrate that into our automation scripts. Like run this test after the CID or cloud builds. 1553 is to create do some enhancements to cloud tester framework to make it support gRPC API tests. And 1554 is to use some of the features of cloud tester to run some sanity tests after the physical cloud installation. The next two, not sure.
Those two are mine.
Oh, okay.
1522, we had an issue with specifically Docker, but a few other things where it would, pulling a change set would install software on the QA system, which is not ideal. So figuring out how to resolve that issue and whether this is we need to split things between master and 3.0 or whatever. That was a bug. There's also as we're switching to the make-based build, 1584 is updating the QA environment so that for master they use the make-based build because part of one of the future things for that is that the old way is going away, and so QA needs to be up on that before we get rid of the old ways, or we won't be able to approve change sets.
A question on the physical part sanity test. The physical part that you are using is the one that is in QCP?
Yeah, I think so. QCP,
okay.
Either 1 or 2.
Right. And does sanity tests include sort of data plane testing?
Not sure if we already have that. Because the idea here is to use Podtester, existing Podtester for sanity verification. Yeah, I'm not sure.
So do you use Podtester right now or not yet?
Not yet. Okay. And we also have several, like 6 tickets in the component string. Not sure if anyone will be working on that. It's online.
That's a different ethic, right?
Yeah, I was going to go over, or have the performance brigade go over their stuff after.
Okay. But another question on the QA is, Luca made some changes whereby, the cord nightly build, when it deploys things, it now also deploys the fabric.
Yeah.
Have you incorporated that into?
Yeah, but we only have fabric on QC1, I think. Yeah. So that will, well, it depends on if that pod has fabric or not. It will deploy fabric. It has fabric.
Okay. But you are using Luca's changes.
Using, you mean? So yeah, that Jenkins job is already using that change.
Are you sure?
QC1.
The one that brings up the, loads the operating system on the hardware switches, loads up OFTPA connected to all those things, right? Does it?
It will. I know the latest change will stop after the switches get provisioned, but not further.
Well, anything further will be doing data plane testing, right? But
yeah.
But at least you're going through the step of installing the software on the switches and okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay. I realized we skipped fabric.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So most of the work that we're doing in the fabric are for dual homing, and the first 3 stories are actually checked in the code and they're in review right now. It's still open because Charles got upset with me last time. Then I closed the story once I pushed to get it. So let it be reviewed, and so we keep it up there. But actually the first 4 stories. But the 5th one is my main concern, to do all failure recovery testing in the dual Tor scenario. And that will consume me for a while, and also going through the reviews for the earlier 4 stories. But we are now at the point where the routing is taken care of in dual Tor scenarios, and separately Charles has been working on the dual Tor to the dual home servers and taking care of the sort of the access side, the server side. So I think Charles's main story over here probably is the integration of the 2 to see if there are problems with what he's been working on and what I've been working on.
That's 1581.
Yeah.
Integrating dual home methods.
Just 3 points.
Okay.
Very confident you can see.
I know. I mean, if we find out some issue during integration, then we will create another ticket for.
So that's the main job of this sprint, to make sure that the dual homing works between what I've done and what Charles has done. And once we fix this part, then the next sprint we bring in what Jono has done for the upstream router side. And so I don't see any stories over here for that part, but are you?
So I don't know if anything needs to be done right now until we start integrating.
Okay.
Unless you know something.
Not that I know. So next sprint we will hopefully complete the integration of all the 3 big pieces that we have separately worked on. So this sprint is just what Charles and I have been working on. And then separately, the DHCP stuff that he has been working on. He's made very good progress with DHCP relay for V4 and incorporated Comcast latest. It's been changing for a while, but hopefully it's the last change. And he's done that. That stuff is in review. His main job in this sprint is DHCP V6, which is a completely new support. We've never had support for DHCP V6, but that's coming in. That's the main thing in this sprint for he, in addition to the P4 stuff he's doing. So.
Question.
Yes.
If we are going to integrate the routing part into dual homing in the next sprint, then who's going to write the document for 110 and the core release? We still have a lot of wiki pages need to be updated, right? For
which
the
previous one?
No, for the next core release, right?
Well, see, the next core release is not dependent on the dual homing stuff. It's not, right? So it's only completely. Actually, the last time we talked, we said it's dependent on 1.10, on us 1.10.
Right.
Is that still the case? Or?
Yes.
Okay, so 1.10.
But we still need to find some time to update the wiki page for 110.
Is that a story that you have over here?
It's not in this sprint. It's down there in the backlog.
It's in the backlog?
Yeah. It's the top of backlog.
Oh, that's me. Okay, let's move that in then. We can move that
in this sprint or next?
Yeah, this sprint.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it gonna fit?
Yeah, it'll be okay. Most of my stories are
almost
like
done.
I said, in review, so
Okay.
So it's okay. Anything else, Charles? Steve? No, on this stuff. Yeah.
Okay. I think
We still have 3 full sprints. No, 2 full sprints.
2 sprints
last
and then
one
feature
being
free.
the maintenance, right?
Yes.
Most of the private stuff is not dependent on the release date, just because the stuff that we are working on isn't going to come into core at Shared Delusion.
Except definitely.
Yeah. And then that you've got 2+. E-core?
Hi, yeah, that's me. I'm covering for Mark since he's on vacation. We're mainly in the sprint, we're mainly going to focus on testing, both me and Francesco, to integrate the stuff that he did on the Carrier Ethernet application and the stuff that I did on the services, to bring them together and deploy them together. And that's basically my two tasks. And also Francesco's 2 tasks, but there are no pictures. He's testing on the data plane. I'm testing more on the integration between the application and the services. I also have there was a couple of stories for Max, especially one to bring the UI that Matteo did a couple of months ago, and to update it with the new services that I developed for the global XOS. And also I put on investigation stories for him to better understand and try to deploy the local service chain with the new Tosca model that Matteo is developing in the master. I also have one story point to create a document for the device drivers and needed elements inside ONOS for the devices that want to be brought in the eCode project, because we have a couple of companies that asked for it. So I'm gonna create it and so we can distribute it. That's it on my side. If there are not too many story points, because Mark is on vacation, and so I didn't want to overcommit.
Okay, thanks, Andrea. Anything?
Okay. For the MCOS, we will finish the services, the tasks we left for finish the code 3.0. So we will connect the service to the thread and fix the VHSS doesn't show up on the service list. And after that, we can start to create VMs after the services. And then we still need to fix the client form to support big letter in the repo or project name. Then all people can download and build it automatically. The last two are very important to us. From this sprint, we start to build the full pod or MCOS based on 3.0 for the September demo. And then after build the pod, we will test the network. We couldn't test on coding box, such as the VLAN network. Indeed, the service name is VSG network on the full pod. That's all.
Okay, thanks.
So when you say full pod, you mean with multiple fabric switches or a single fabric switch?
For the online side, we probably use single switch. We asked the full pod because those days all developers are just working on coding box. Coding box just one server, right? We asked the full pod as a multiple compute nodes and include several physical servers and one fabric switch, hardware switch. And for the KVM, they haven't decided they use multiple or single. The KVM meant to use multiple hardware switch.
Okay, KVM is a separate sort of, there is a brigade going on that I'm working with the KVM people to upgrade to have their switches work in the current fabric.
Yeah.
So that's a separate topic. I was talking about where we use the Broadcom switches. You're still using one switch. That's the plan. When you say full code, you say it's one switch.
Yeah, for some time demo, that's not the plan.
That's fine. Now, there is a separate brigade that I've heard Oz mention once in a while, that your M chord and R chord, you're trying to bring it together on, a multi.
Yes.
Are you aware of that? Or who's
I know that there's another thread is the Redis and DT. They work on that one, so they bring up the multi-access code, R code and M code. Last week they did the team who working on it didn't show up on the weekly meeting, so they didn't share the progress. So I think maybe privately I'll talk to them. You can ask him.
Okay. Okay. So none of that is reflected in this, right?
Yeah,
in the data.
right.
That's fine.
Yes, that's Redis and DT. They are working on that thread, not show up here.
Let me skip out.
Yeah, so I had some tasks. The first thing I was going to do is try to deploy Volta in the current code 3.0 pod, and make sure that integrates well, and basically just try to figure out if there's any problems with integrating that into the current pod. And I'll be deploying that on the Punsim, which is the emulated OLT device right now. And then after that, I was wanting to resurrect the VLT synchronizer and see if we can get a machine config to us to configure the VLT app in us.
And the purpose behind this is that we want to integrate Volta into our cord, which has been missing for a long time. So while Shad works on the new OLT hardware integration into Volta, Jonah will work on the Volta integration into our cord. And once that is successful, we will work with Ping and whoever in the MCORD team to bring the MCORD pieces also into our part, right? I mean, basically onto the same platform, right? And that will do multiple. That has that's multi-access, but it will also use multiple switches as the CORD part uses, right? So right now you're doing one switch, that's fine. But when we bring MCORD onto the same platform as our CORD with Volta also, then we will make sure that it works on multiple switches. And that time we will work with you to ensure that that is possible.
Okay.
And any changes to VDN that may be necessary for doing that. And all that.
Yeah, okay. Those days we have been using the one fabric switch because the plan is to use the MCORD mini to bring it to the MCORD mini to show on the different conference. So in that pod, it only contains one switch there.
Understood, yeah. But if there are any complications from going from one to more, we want to understand that. And the eventual goal is that the official CORD pod should support R and M simultaneously, and we hope that we can get that done by shared delusion, but at least start making progress on that.
Okay. So you're aiming for shared delusion.
We're aiming, but in fact, we'll do our part first. Our part, which is Volta.
But this is really 3.0, and so it'll be a roll of that branch.
Oh, actually, probably on the master, I'm guessing. What do you mean 3.0?
Are you working on Core 3.0 or no?
We want to get this. If we're writing code for this, we want to get it into the next release, right?
Okay.
We're coding on the master.
The M stuff is all you're using 3.0.
Yes, because we have a demo in September.
Okay. So maybe the M part may not get into shared delusion then, but we'll see. Let's get done with the R part, the residential part, then we'll revisit the M part.
So those days we didn't work on master at all.
Right, understood. That's good to know. Thanks.
But I thought from a timeline standpoint, Volta's schedule kind of moved out. So how is that going to work out with shared delusion? There was I think, August release that moved out into September, right? And that would be past feature freeze report.
Yes. It was mainly moved out because the adapter, the hardware, the OLT box that we are using, AT&T wanted to use that in the field trial. So, and that needs more time for development because we started late on that. So, not Volta itself, but Volta's integration with the adapter is the one that has moved out.
Okay.
Hopefully there shouldn't be too much change in at least the use of Volta in our code. Maybe still not with the new hardware, but I don't have all the answers right now, but I am aware of that.
Open Cloud, Zach?
This is getting the CDN up, and then I think also for Scott, getting the CDN up on a prototype node. The goal is to get this done ASAP.
Yeah, so my task is going to be to set up one site and then hand that off to Zach, who's going to set up all the other sites. I think that's why we have this sort of division of labor between the two of us here.
That's correct.
Anything else I'm missing before we move to the performance brigade?
Maybe a core, because it is the core Jira project.
Okay, here's a cord.
Yeah, so the first 4 items actually is about bringing a cord up and running for release 3.0, and which actually turned out to be somewhat problematic. We are working for quite a long time on this. But thanks to Stefan and Scott, I think we will soon be done with that, right? Hopefully. So, but I had to move into sprint 4. It was originally aimed for sprint 3 actually. And other than that, also we are aiming to start the integration with ONAP with ACORE during this sprint. And to achieve that, actually, we have a certain task here. One of them is to investigate the DNS event stream that ONAP is using as analysis and telemetry, and as well as like we need to start installing ONAP and see, have it up and running. Along with that, one of our high level objectives was to benefit from other existing open source works out there. So within that context, we have done a series of proof of concept work for open config and in the past, and we will be keeping doing that for this sprint as well, so that we have a better idea whether or not to which extent OpenConfig can be useful for ACORE. And similarly, as a dashboard visualization component, we are having a look to Grafana. And in order to extend the set of probes for ACORE, we have this Argela probes that we intend to wrap them as XOS services. And also to address the programmable probes and on-demand tapping of data traffic, we have this vPacket access task, which Murat will take care of, and which involves actually a deeper integrated with on stuff. So that's the plan for sprint 4.
So are each of these stories intended to span the sprint?
Yes,
or
each of them actually, the first 4, they are taken care by a group of people. So and with help from Scott and Stefan. And I guess this is gonna go away within the term of sprint 4, hopefully. And all the rest are done in parallel by different team members. So I think we will be able to achieve it.
So maybe we can sync up between kind of the story points. I think this is kind of the high-level summary.
Yes. Sprint points, yes, we need to probably align. These are just that we are using a mandate. That's it. So it's not like following up Fibonacci series or something, and which we found a little complex. But if we need to align.
Yes, we actually have kind of a mapping, so I can discuss that with you.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, later on we can align that. Yeah, I agree with you. Okay.
Thanks.
That's it. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the update. I will now move us to the performance. So performance brigade. So Andy, were you going to go over this, or who is going to cover this?
So I'll just kind of give a little context. So there's 2 main thrusts to the performance brigade. One of them is development work that needs to happen to integrate DBDK with the Cord platform. And the other, that's that one. And the other is creating an environment for validating the changes and benchmarking the performance. And so QA is taking the lead on setting up the pod and the framework for testing and benchmarking. and that is most of the tickets here. I don't know if anybody from QA is on who can go over these.
I don't have more information. So these are assigned to the code tester device. Yeah, not sure if anyone from sanity is online, but basically I don't know.
Okay. Andy, I don't think we have anyone online.
Okay, so anyhow, so there's work for expanding the core tester framework with the packet generator, developing scale tests for core components. What else? That looks like most of these tickets have to do with those things. And then the final one, Cord 1484, is a development task. And right now we're a little shorthanded for developers on the Performance Brigade. And David Boswell is working on helping us with that. But this task is adding some configuration to the OpenStack configuration options in order to support the DBTK work. So there's a number of different things that need to happen with OpenStack configuration to do the full integration, but this is just kind of getting started on that.
I'm a little confused by these stories. Most of these stories seem like they're QA related, but this Performance Brigade, I mean, this is almost like secondary, right? I mean, if you're trying to integrate DPDK into Cord, okay, the first thing that needs to change is how we deploy OVS, right? And PTN needs to change in order to factor in the new OVS using DPDK. And I don't see those stories here. So who's doing that?
So I mentioned that we are shorthanded in terms of core platform developers who have stepped up to do that development work. So you're absolutely right in the scope of the work that needs to happen to actually integrate it. But we're having trouble so far getting people signed up for those tasks.
So, Saurabh, you are right. People stepped up to help with the testing side, but no one is stepping up to help on the integration that's required before you have anything to test.
Okay, thanks. Isn't Intel, somebody from Intel can do that work, since they've already done it before in other scenarios? Right, I mean, OVS plus DPDK is their thing, right?
Sure.
So you're right, and Andy and Sai
yeah.
from Intel sat down and came up with these stories, which took Intel expertise and Andy's build expertise, and they put it together. And if either one of them had the time, they could go off and do it. But that's where we're trying to recruit someone to help. So I mean, they didn't have the build system expertise, and Andy didn't have the DPDK expertise. But between the two of them, they figured out what needed to be done.
Good talk.
Sure. I don't know if it's relevant, but there's also been talk of not deploying OVS using BTN and having OVS deployed as part of the actual build of the compute nodes. I don't know if that's something to consider as we undertake this work or not.
Jonah, could you repeat that? I didn't quite catch it.
People like David Bainbridge have been talking about stuff. Instead of deploying the OVS using VTN, have it deployed as part of the bring up of the compute node in the first place.
Right. That's actually the strategy that we're going to pursue with the DPTK integration.
Okay, good.
Rather than trying to change the VTN app to do the right thing, we're just going to kind of sidestep that and bring it up as part of the compute node bootstrap.
Okay, well, but still VTN would have to change,
Exactly,
right?
yeah,
To not redo the work,
yeah,
right?
I was just going to say that, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else? If not, I think we're good. I will start the sprint later today. Okay, thanks everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.